Hey everybody, I'm Z Garcia and welcome back to another Dice Tower review. Today, I'm going to be taking a look here at Untamed Feral Factions. This is a head-to-head mostly. It does play up to 3, but really it's mostly a 2-player game in which the 2 players are going to, at the beginning of the game, grab some factions of these different animals, these anthropomorphic animals. You're going to mash those together into a deck of cards and you're going to take that deck up against your opponent, trying to break through their strongholds before they do it to you. You manage to do that, you win the game. So it's going to be combat. The game is going to feel largely like a collectible card game or a trading card game of sorts. So that's the idea. That's the type of game we're looking at here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at it on the table, of course. I'll give you an overview of how it works, what's happening in it. We'll come on back. I'll tell you what I think. In this overview, I'm definitely not going to be showing you everything. I'm going to be glossing over a lot of rules, and I'm also going to be showing you only one player's side of the table over here. To set up the game, the 2 players will draft which factions they want to play with. Out of a total of 9, they will end up with 3 each. You shuffle them up into a deck, you take the 3 strongholds, and you arrange them however you want to. And the objective of the game is to break your opponent's 3 strongholds here. After you go through the top one, flip over the next, and so on. All right? So here I've got the rhinos, and then I took the rats and the chameleons. And then there's a whole stack here, because I'm not even setting up the other player, for rabbits and raccoons here, foxes, crocodiles, tigers, and pandas. Oh my. So there we go. That's everything. There's also player aids. Unfortunately, there's only 1 of each, and I really wish there were, well, at least 1 more of each of these, but this will have to do for right now. Shuffle up, you get yourself an opening hand, you can mulligan, all that stuff. And then you are going to take one of the cards in your hand and you're going to set it over here in the support area. This game has 2 currencies. There's support, which is used by removing the card, any card from over here, out of the game. And then there is power, which is used by exhausting the card and paying for something. That's the more traditional one. So taking a look at this card over here, for example, there is the cost in power. And some cards have an ability that you pay support for. So this card, War Drums over here, costs 1 power. It's an item. It also has an ability, though, that says you may pay 1 support instead of paying this card's power cost up here. And then whatever it does. All animals you play that come into play during this turn come into play with 1 fury. Fury would be these little tokens over here. There's wounds, fury, or whatever else you need. So there you go. Those are the cards. There's also animals, of course, like this one, and they're going to have a cost, how much they hit for, their strength, and then their health or their defense. How many times you need to hit it for it to go away. So the players are going to be going back and forth using the 2 phases back and forth until the game is over, like I said, by taking out these strongholds. And there are 2 phases, main phase and then upkeep phase. So during the main phase, you can do several different things. You can play a card, pay for that card, you put it out into play. If it's a creature, it comes out exhausted, meaning you can't do anything with it that round. It'll ready during the upkeep phase. There are some keywords, of course, that bring it out ready to go. You can attack with an animal. You choose an opponent's creature or you choose their stronghold and you attack them. You take the creature, you exhaust it, you attack for that much, and you do that much. Again, characters, if you're attacking them, have a defense. And of course, there's abilities as well. You can play a card as power. Once per round, you can take one of the cards in your hand, put it face down over here, and then you can again exhaust that to pay for other cards. Yeah? You can use your stronghold ability. This one is pay to support, give an animal 1 fury. That is my rhino ability. So if I have some cards over here, I can discard them and get fury. And I haven't talked about how cards end up here. You put one there at the beginning of the game, but I'll talk about how they end up there in just 1 second. And then you can also pay 2 power from over here, you exhaust 2 of these to draw an additional card that's also only once per turn. So those are the things you're doing. You can do those, unless it says once per turn, as many times as you want to. Once you are done with that, you do your upkeep phase, in which you are going to ready all of your exhausted cards. You're going to draw 2 cards from the top of the deck, and then you take one and put it face up in your support area. Besides that, getting 1 in there every turn, any creatures that die go to your support area, and any cards you play and then finish doing something and go away, they also go to your support area. And again, every card in here counts as one of those paw print symbols. Then they go away, like out of the game once you have spent them. You're trying to take down the strongholds or not be the one who runs out of cards. That's also an end game trigger, all right? So that's the general flow of the game. You've got money, increasing amounts of money over here that you can spend during following turns, more and more of it to put out beefier and beefier creatures, attack with them, wear down your opponent's side, take down their strongholds here, which accumulate hits. You use these to track that. Eventually breaking that stronghold of theirs, taking it out of there. When a player's stronghold goes away, you break that, and then they are going to draw cards equal to however many strongholds they've got broken now. So 1 for the first one. If that card has a specific symbol up here, which is this symbol right here, then you immediately get to put that card out for free. So again, there's a little sort of push your luck catch-up mechanism there. And then you reveal the next stronghold, and that's your current one, and that's a new ability, and what you are, again, trying to protect from your opponent while you go after theirs. So that's the general flow. A lot of the powers in here are the kinds of things you would expect from a card battling game. Buffs, debuffs for your opponent, extra powers, extra abilities, having, the ability to attack immediately, all of that kind of stuff. Just general kind of control. There you go. That's pretty much an overview of what's going on in the game. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what's happening. Let's go ahead and go back up top. Let's give you some final thoughts. This is a game that initially caught my eye very simply based on the fact that it is gorgeous looking. The artwork is stunning. The packaging, the trappings here are really, really lovely. And so I very quickly was drawn to it, and I like this kind of game, which is, I think, a big prerequisite for you to possibly be interested in the game. Do you like trading card games? Do you like old CCGs and that sort of thing? This is going to be a bit like that. It reminds me, actually, in gameplay, a bit of 2 games. It reminds me a little bit of the World of Warcraft trading card game, if you happen to know that one. That became Hearthstone, sort of. And then it also reminds me of the old Versus system card game. It's got some ideas that are similar to those 2 games. If you don't know those, that's fine. It just if you do, then that's a better, that lets you hang your hat on something and reminds you of that. So let me go ahead and talk about some of the things I liked in the game and some of the things I didn't like, that I thought were a little bit weak and show areas of definite, improvement that could be brought to the table here. And I'm assuming most of them come from inexperience for the publisher, which means I would love to see, perhaps another attempt at this kind of game, or just even a 2.0. But before I get too far ahead, let's talk about the things I did like. So we're going to start with the obvious one. I already mentioned fantastic artwork all over. There's a lot of great art. There's a lot of great fashions in here. The artwork and the thematic trappings manage to give each faction a feel. So you've got, for example, the rats. They're very sneaky. They're like the underbelly of the city. CD is also works, but the city. They're the underbelly of the city. They're very seedy. They're sneaky. You can't trust them. They're charlatans and hoodlums. That's the idea. And then you've got like the pandas, who are the bankers and the gamblers and sort of the ones who throw their gold around the city. They buy their power, that sort of thing. So really interesting. And again, they all sort of have their own thing, their own feel a little bit. Coupled with fantastic artwork, really a good-looking game. On the flip side of that, I will say I think the graphic design in the game leaves a lot to be desired. I don't like the card frames very much. For one thing, I find them very muted, and I really do wish that each animal group had its own flourish in the card frame. Now, yes, there's a little icon in the top or left right-hand corner there that shows you what faction it belongs to. But gosh, it feels like they could have made that frame beautiful and specific to the animals. Some nice, bamboo artwork, maybe some sneaky daggers in the frame. I don't know, it could have been beautified quite a bit more than what they did, which is incredibly simplistic. And even the colors, the gray and dark blue that kind of looks like gray on the card frame, they just don't pop. Another thing I like very much is the deck construction. I find the deck construction in this game to be really interesting and clever. This idea of drafting 3 groups, shuffling them together, you are ready to go. Now, yes, we've seen that before. Smash Up and many other games at this point have done that. But it still works well. You do not have to mess around with deck building, taking cards and making piles and building a deck. Just grab 3 that interest you and you are good to go. And I enjoyed that. The way it works here is solid and straightforward. And there's a lot to this game that is straightforward, especially taken in the context of this kind of game, usually. I appreciate that. The game is simple to grasp. That's another thing I really like. And I find mechanically, while it's certainly not revolutionary, there's a couple of areas of design here that I found clever. I do like the idea of coupling the power mechanism, which is very much like Magic the Gathering or, the WoW trading card game, right? In which you put a card face down, you can exhaust that or tap it for power to pay for other things. That's very by the numbers. Just about every other collectible card game, if not more, has done that. The support area is a clever idea. This idea of every time you play a card, if it's an item, you do its thing, it goes over here for support. If it's an animal, it goes away, and then you keep it for support. Yes, it's a little bit of a ham-fisted catch-up mechanism in a way, but I thought it was a clever secondary resource, sort of another currency you have to manage that does not reset at the beginning of a round. It will deplete, and once you spend 3, they just go away. You don't get those back. They don't reset at the beginning of a round. So I did enjoy that idea. Some things I did not like. Let's go ahead and jump into that. The cards quality, the actual cardboard is a little... They're thick. They're like a little cardboard slab a little bit. They're showing wear very quickly, and on top of that, the cards are dark-edged. It's not black, but they are sort of like a really dark gray. And that's problematic. The cards are going to show wear very, very quickly. You need to sleeve these cards if you are going to play this game with any regularity whatsoever. So that's important that you do that. You need to sleeve it. So another thing I saw was some of the keywords and some of just the sort of quality control was a little hit and miss. Like there's one keyword called arrive. But there's a faction that has a character in it where that word is, instead of it saying arrive, it says arrival, : whatever the power is. I'm like, wait, this is the same thing, clearly. It got missed in an update, or it was called arrival at one point and then they changed it to arrive, or vice versa. Something happened there where they missed that. A small thing. It only, again, shows up on like 3 cards in the whole box, but... little quality control issues like that. I also thought the symbols and the symbology was problematic. The Fury token, which gives you extra power to attack, is a blue token, whereas the attack symbol is red. Then health is green, and it's a shield, but taking a hit is a red token. There's no good visual language that they settled on here that makes the game easier to digest. Again, I think it's sort of young developers or young designers kind of things, or maybe not enough eyes on the product, That sort of thing could have been caught, could have been tightened up and made the visual representation of what's going on and the ease of learning the game even better. It's already pretty easy, but even better if the tokens had matched the symbols that they aid or chip away at. Just that would have helped. There's player aids in here, but there's only 2 that are different, by the way. Like, you need both. And there isn't one for like a second or third player. It would have been 2 more cards, you know, so that seems strange to me that it didn't include that. And then, like I said, the final thing I'll mention is that the catch-up mechanism, while clever, this idea of when your stronghold goes away, you draw cards and maybe they come into play immediately. That's a thing in the game. It's pretty ham-fisted, you know, that idea of I'm losing, or the game screaming at you, you're losing, here's some free stuff, whee, catch up again so that you can keep playing. Yeah, it was a little ham-fisted, so not a big deal, and I do like that feeling of drawing a card or two and being like, oh yes, bam, it leads to fun moments. That's not a problem, but it's sort of hard to ignore that it is so obviously a catch-up mechanism. Registered trademark kind of thing. All right, so overall, I do like the game. I enjoyed it. It's not superb. It's not a game that is suddenly going to... I'm not going to go home and get rid of all my Magic the Gathering cards or throw away my other trading card games. But for what it does, for being a pretty introductory style head-to-head game that approximates trading card games, which this is not, it just feels like them, I think it does a good job of that. I played this with a couple of people that don't like this kind of game, and they both said, I could see myself enjoying this kind of game. And that's, while that doesn't sound like high praise, I consider it to be. This is a game that does not attempt to compete with the big, heavy, incredibly, keyword smashing trading card games or living card games or what have you. It's going for a different area. It's going for something much more digestible, and I think when it comes to that, it succeeds. So there you go. From me, Untamed, Feral Factions here is going to get a 7 out of 10. That means it gets a seal of approval. I do enjoy it. I would recommend it again if you are someone who is not too worried about some of the issues I mentioned, visual issues and sort of quality control things, a few small things like that. But you are interested in a pretty world with great artwork, and you enjoy dipping your toe into these clashing games that feel like collectible card game. And that's going to do it. So there you go, everybody. It's a 7 out of 10 from me for Untamed Feral Factions. My name is Z Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.